You're listening to Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. Hello.
Hello.
Well,
before a special normal person for you today, which I'm sure you already know by the title, but before I interview Rachel.
So titillating. You're going to be so titillated.
We want to remind you that if you've been meaning to join us for Getting Over People Pleasing, today's the last day. And also as a reminder, this is the last day for, I don't know, indefinitely? I won't say forever, but I mean, I just don't know.
It could be forever. We don't know because it's been 2 years since we did that, which is practically forever in terms of the world and how many things can change in 2 years. So yeah, today is the last day to join us for 4 weeks. Okay. We get started on Monday. We already have a group of people. I don't know. We haven't even opened enrollment yet at the time we're recording this. So we have a group of people in there, I'm positive. And we're going to release content 1 week at a time. So you're not going to be overwhelmed because you can't work ahead. You can't be a perfectionist.
You can't. You literally cannot access the next lesson until we release it the next week.
Yeah. So we give you a little lesson every week. And then we send you off into the world after a very brief lesson, like briefer than you're expecting coming from me and Kristen.
We do have a workbook. So we're going to ask you to
go do homework,
integrate a little bit by working through your workbook. And then we also have a community page where you can ask us questions. You can share stories, some of your wins, some of your challenges, talk to other people in the group. For some of you who have been asking for years, how do I meet other Clarity on Fire people? This is
one way to do it. Yeah.
Especially your fellow people pleasers.
They're going to get it because they're doing it too. I'm trying not to.
We're going to be courageous together.
And then at the end,
then today's it. Today's your day.
Literally. It's very simple. 4 weeks, group experience, do it yourself part of the way, but get questions answered and comments read and connection as we go in our little forum. And then at the end, we do a live Zoom with me and Kristen.
And as a reminder to our clients,
current clients
or past people pleasing members, if you want to join us for this, just let us know.
Yeah, if you want to redo it because you've done it before, but hey, never hurts to do it again. Yeah. Or if you're working with us one-on-one and you want to join along, that's one of the perks of working with us one-on-one is you can do stuff like this with us for no additional cost. Then just email us at contact@clarityonfire and say, oh, please add me. And anytime between now and like Monday, the day we get started, which is in a few days. Okay. So link is in show notes. Link is also just at clarityonfire.com. Go to the Work With Us tab. There's a people pleasing page. You can read all about it. You can sign up. And also, just because it's a live experience in that we're going to be going through it week by week, doesn't mean that if you really want to do it, because this is the only time we're selling it. Again, like this page will not exist come Monday. Like you will not be able to sign up for this course.
No, it will be gone.
But if you want to do it, you just August isn't a good time and you want to wait until October, that's fine. You can go through it yourself at any time once you have it.
Yeah, you're not going to lose access to the content.
No.
The process is the same.
Yeah. So if you're like, well, I don't know if I can keep up, that's fine. If you want to do it on your own at a slower pace or later date, that is totally your prerogative. Assert your needs.
which we know is hard for people.
Which is a lesson we'll get into. So, okay. Let's just get the hell over it, people.
Yeah, this is it. Jump off the fence.
Get
and
over it.
If you do, great. We'll see you in there. And if you don't, okay, we'll keep listening to the podcast.
Yeah. Okay. So link in show notes for and or our site for, signing up, but also reading about like what we're going to cover each week and all of that stuff. Okay. Last day. This is it. Okay. Now to me.
Now on to Rachel. So you guys heard all about my update last month.
Guess what you and I didn't do this time?
Listen to the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to it.
I didn't either.
Of course you didn't. I know you didn't, but I should have. But whatever. It was we were talking about Forever Alone.
Yeah.
Which, what if they don't know what Forever Alone?
Maybe we need to start there because we probably do have some new people
in the last year
who started listening post Forever Alone.
Yeah.
So do you want to give like a recap of what that was?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So a year ago on my birthday, August 18th. So some of y'all need to be wishing me a happy early birthday right now, or just noting that my birthday is next.
Please do. Because Rachel hates her birthday. So we need to send her some love.
I'm sorry. I'm a type 4 and I skew toward the darker side of humor and sometimes just depression period, which is not always funny, but I can find the funny in it. And I just feel like birthdays are usually a marker of everything that hasn't happened. That's been my experience. Is I just get annoyed that I'm older, but that some things haven't changed. And my face is like slowly sliding off of my skull. Do you know what I mean?
Love birthdays. So we have very different birthday energies. So I'm going to be like, it's your birthday. Just be like, it's my birthday.
Just like, shut up. And I will tolerate it until it's over.
I feel like your birthday is the one day of the year you can do whatever you want.
I think that's a lot of pressure.
But it's not, because whatever you want might be, I need to do nothing because I've been doing so much.
But I don't like doing nothing because I want to remember
no responsibility. It's a no expectations day. That's what I love about birthdays.
I don't have the same take on
but it's fine.
them.
It's fine. We're gonna still celebrate.
Whatever. Okay.
Okay. But last year, the way you celebrated was
that was memorable. Yeah. So I released, for the few of you who don't know this, I released a separate podcast called Forever Alone. You can find it wherever podcasts are downloaded. I highly recommend that you do.
Yeah, it's still out there.
It is, and I think it's actually 8 parts now because I put out a bonus episode a few months afterward. But it is an 8-part mini series about my very long, very, very long journey through singledom. The subtitle is One Introverted Millennial's Half Agonizing, Half Hopeful Journey Through Singledom. It is very Jane Austen inspired, as that subtitle would have you believe. And I got into, it's autobiographical. It's basically a memoir, but with ton of, if I say so myself, wisdom about processing the whole experience of being single, of wanting something really badly and not being able to get it for some reason, depression, trying to get your needs met through your career, like all of the things I worked through and have worked through since I was practically a kid, like since I was a teenager up until basically present day. And I think it's really effing good. It is. Like, really, I'm not good. Like, it actually is just really good. And one day I will turn it into a book, and one day I will have season 2. It was my aspiration to have season 2 come out on my birthday this year, but the universe did not deem.
You have enough content?
No, I don't. Nope. I do not.
You don't? Oh,
I refuse.
Okay.
I adamantly refuse to put out season 2 with the level of content I currently have. I do not have enough content.
You've had a lot of experiences.
I have enough for half a season.
Wow.
Okay. That's half a season's worth of content.
Wow.
No, I'm not going to have a season. I'm not going to have a whole season about the last year. That's depressing as fuck, if you ask me.
We've also had a few other things going on the past year, so I'm not exactly sure when you would have produced a whole separate podcast on top of everything else we've been doing.
It's not a good arc. That's not a good story arc. If you thought about it for half a second, you would agree with me.
I agree with you, but I do feel like there's so much going on.
Yeah, but the first season was my entire life.
True. That's true.
Up until I was 33.
Well, this is what we're going to check in about.
Yeah, I'm not going to write a season about
it
a
today.
year.
This is our whole conversation today. So you can share what you want to share.
You can tell I'm really angry about that. I'm just like not going to do it like that. Anyway, so that was what in August, we did a normal person interview where I talked about why I did that. And you can go back and listen to it. Though I would also just recommend you listen to Forever Alone.
Yeah, I would just jump into that.
Just do that.
Frankly.
But please, in order. It is a mini series. It starts with chapter 1. Okay. That's how you have to listen to it.
They're in chapters.
In order.
Yeah.
Okay. Just anywhere you listen to podcasts, Forever Alone, just do that. Okay.
So a year later.
Yeah, we're back to we're back to process everything. Not everything, but we're back to process where I'm at between that coming out a year ago and today. For those who are members of our Patreon community, they have heard a lot of what's happened over the last year because they have a series where quarterly we kind of check in on the whole dating and singledom thing. But
that's a very small group compared to our whole podcast.
Yeah,
groups. They don't.
I have things to say. I have things to share.
That's what we're here for today. Well, first though, when I interviewed you last time, you hadn't yet put Forever Alone out. You were about to.
Yeah, it was like a week in advance, or I don't know.
So before we get into your last year, I'm kind of curious, what was the experience like of putting that out there and getting feedback? And it was a concept that you created, but then you actually released it out into the world. And we didn't really talk about the releasing it out into the world part.
I loved it. Everyone was like, that is so brave. I was like, no, it wasn't. Mm-hmm. That was fun. I don't think it's brave to, I mean, I understand why some people think that. I'm just not the kind of person. Clearly, I've had a podcast for 4 years. I don't think it's brave to tell your truth. Mm-hmm. I think it's normal for me. I'm a truth teller. I was born a truth teller.
Like shifting in their skin right now. Like, how is that
easy? Not only did I not think that was brave, I've multiple men who I've dated briefly have listened to part or all of that podcast. Like I'll share it with literally anybody. Someone who could use that information to decide they don't want to date me. I'm like, great. Get lost then. Like
that's a lot less explaining I have to do. Just hear my pre-recorded story.
Literally, just get my whole backstory here. Tell me if you like me. That's fine. I'm actually backing off from sharing that stuff as early as I would normally, because I've kind of learned, okay, maybe not everyone has earned the right to your story right away, but it's just a vibe. If I feel in someone's vibe, I'll share it with them.
Mm-hmm. So what have been some of the reactions that you've gotten?
From men or from
anyone? From anyone. Could be men, but from anyone. I know I had a lot of clients tell me that they really related with a lot of what you shared, and they felt like they had felt very alone in their experience and then felt very validated. So that was just my reaction. So I'm sure you got way more than me.
Yeah. I got a lot of people telling me it made them feel really seen, and that it's like a particular brand of person who has this experience. And it's not everybody. So I think there's a lot of people who are like, this is how some people feel. This is what some people experience. And and so it's actually, I think, helped other people understand their single friends better. Like one of our best friends said, oh my God, I am so sorry. I feel like I've said some things to you that I should never have said, that I probably were hurtful. And I didn't even realize because it's just not been my experience. Like this is one of our friends who's been in a relationship since she was 16. So that actually helped me connect with my friends more, which was nice. But yeah, I mean, anything I can do, which is why we do this in general, that makes other people feel more seen or heard or understood and less alone is like fine by me, which is why I don't think it's freaking brave to tell your story. Because I think that doing that just helps everybody. Anyway, but that's not, I mean, Okay, that's fine. I was literally about to commandeer this interview because I'm bossy.
But can commandeer this interview because this is your interview. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But I wanted to start there because that's where we ended last time was about Forever Alone.
Okay. Well, right. Okay.
So,
but I want you to ask me what I want you to ask me.
Well, what I ultimately want to ask you is what have you learned over the past year? But
a lot.
Before we even talk about what you've learned, I think you need to give
the setup.
Yeah, like what has happened. You don't have to go into detail, but
I know
what's happened in the past year so that they understand what you learned from all that.
Okay, so the theme of this last year, well, really the theme since I decided to get on dating apps, which I get into in Forever Alone, like my reluctance around ever wanting to do them, me deciding, screw it, I'm just going to do it. But I had a lot of fear and anxiety, which I get to the bottom of where that fear and that trauma was coming from in Forever Alone, season 1. So I'm not going to give you the whole backstory on that because you can go listen to that yourself. But oh my God, I've been humbled many, 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 many times in the last year. Okay. Thinking, oh, great, I've done enough work now. Okay, great. Like I've learned on to the next thing. And I've learned, I don't know as much as I think I know, or I'm not as healed as I thought I was. That's been the theme of this last year.
Like new layers.
Here's what ended up happening in the last year. Very shortly after I put out Forever Alone, my house flooded. Anyone who's been listening to this for this podcast for the last year knows that. That was September 1st. My birthday was August 18th. I didn't have much time in between. Forever Alone was still being published as my place flooded, and I was going through all of that. I stayed on dating apps until the end of October because I stayed on dating apps long enough to go on my 2-week trip to the UK with my friend Marissa. So I was like, not going to give up on the opportunity to have a Scottish husband. And I'm still not giving up on that. Just so you know, that dream is alive and well. Really any Brit. I'm not picky, but I do like kilts. But then after that, given the flood, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I need a break. I'd been doing it since January. It was 10 months straight. I can't do that anymore. So I got off dating apps in October of last year. And then I moved in with my parents in January of this year.
Because your entire place had to get essentially rebuilt.
Renovated. Yeah. And then I kept checking in. Every once in a while, I would kind of just check in with myself. Like, should I get back on dating apps? Do I feel like that's the right move? And it just never, for months, it never felt like the right move. Understandably, I'm living with my parents. My house is getting renovated. I'm dealing with that. I'm trying to like take this big pivot in business, and we're going to take on a lot of extra work. And funnily enough, what kind of ended up happening in hindsight was that I was renovating 3 areas of my life at the same time. That's what 2022 has been like so far. Business, dating and relationships, and actual house renovation all literally were going on at the same time. It's like the universe was like, we don't do things in pieces. We do them all at once because that's who you are.
Your energy, I was going to say. Like,
it's intense. Let's just double down on, let's triple down on it. Let's triple down on the renovations. That's what ended up happening. So, but I kept checking in. And then funnily enough, it was like the week that a lot of things happened. I found out that that the renovations on my house were actually going to start. We were about to move forward on our business renovation. Mm-hmm. And then I checked in about the online or getting on an app again. And it wasn't like I felt a really strong yes. It was more like I no longer felt like it was a no. Mm-hmm. Was the absence of a no, which is not the same thing as like a full body yes. But I just was like, all right, screw it. I'll get on Bumble. I've never tried Bumble before, as established in my bonus episode that I put out last November of Forever Alone. I've been on Hinge, hadn't been on Bumble. Let's try Bumble. And first of all, I endorse Bumble probably more than any other app. I still don't like dating apps. Let's just make it very clear. I do like that you both have to swipe right, obviously, before you can match, and that the people on there tend to be of a higher quality. And that is saying something. Let's be very clear. That is not that complimentary. It's just less awful than any other experience I've had. And long story short, And this is making a very long story
That's what
short.
I was trying to say. There's a lot of content.
There's a lot of content, which you're not going to get until season 2 of Forever Alone.
We're not going to do all the details
Or
here.
if you're a Patreon member and I come back in the fall and do like a deeper dive into everything between like May and September or something like that. But anyway, which is still a lot, a lot of content. Let's see, in the course of like 8 or 9 weeks, probably like 8-ish weeks. I don't know. It was about 2 months, maybe 2.5 months. I had dates with, and I'm counting a date as at least a phone date or like a FaceTime. Okay. Some of these guys, it was multiple phone, FaceTime, and in-person dates. Some, it was just one phone date. And then that was like one and done. That's it. But we're counting any of that as a date, quote unquote, for the purposes of this statistic. Okay. In about 8 or 9 weeks, I had dates with 7 different dudes. So it was about a guy a week, maybe every other week.
I was trying to do the math in my head quickly as you were preempting that, and I couldn't even count them all. So that's, I mean, that's
I would struggle to name them all at this moment. Like there's one I would probably forget about. Well, one that I just had a phone date with, and then it was just one and done. Which when I was on Hinge, I literally went out with one dude in 10 months. In 2021, I went out with one guy. Okay. Who I wrote about in Forever Alone.
And that was like really jarring.
Oh my God, the anxiety that brought up and all of the shit I worked through. So then I basically threw down a gauntlet on myself this year and just was like, and I didn't mean to do it necessarily. I was just like, okay, I think I'm ready to do this. I think let's try Bumble. And let's be clear. I was not swiping like a maniac. I wasn't like saying yes to everyone. I was still being discerning. But it's just, I just
you remain one of the most discerning people that I know.
Yeah.
And still
had that many
dates or that many.
This coming from someone.
Way more dates, but that many men.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how much anxiety and crap I worked through in that tiny period of time. Like you're talking about exposure therapy to the extreme. Like, and you know what? In hindsight, it was kind of cool what ended up happening where like I would match with someone and the next time I matched with someone else, like after I took like the initial 5 days to get clear on, is this person going to be a good fit or not? The next person, I would go, okay, here's what didn't work about that. Right? Like, didn't like this, did like that. Not my favorite thing here. The next guy I would meet would be everything the other guy was not. That's what would happen is I would just literally like pull into reality everything I just said. You know what? I need that too. You know what? I need this too.
Need less of that.
More of this. It was like fine tuning. It was like every time I was adjusting the dials a little bit more and I was working through more anxiety. And I got to tell you, I really thought after going through that everything with, we called him Will in Forever Alone and oh God, they don't even know that he came back and like plagued me for like, basically from like months.
He didn't just come back once.
No. He was a boomerang. But then I officially blocked him in December and I was like, no, we're not doing
enough
this.
Of that.
But I thought after all of that, I'd worked through a lot of stuff. And so again, humility, because I still had a lot more anxiety than I thought. And here's where my anxiety lies for all of you single people, a lot of you codependents, which I am absolutely like 100% not going to deny that. Not a people pleaser, but definitely tend toward codependency for sure. Which is weird. Like,
but they're not one and the same.
They're not one and the same.
One is much more about attachment theory than about people pleasing.
Right. Well, but there's so much overlap, but they're not the same.
They're not the same.
But oh my gosh, my anxiety is not actually about me getting overly attached to the person. Okay. It's not about that, but it's way more about the uncertainty. It's just about not knowing what's going to happen next. It just feels so high stakes. You meet someone, you're intrigued by them. You have this like very like fast and furious like texting thing where they're really cool and they're asking all these questions and you're vibing. And then they're like, hey, do you want to get on the phone? And you're like, okay. And then you're having a 2-hour conversation that night when that morning you didn't know this person existed. Like it's very jarring to a highly sensitive, anxious, codependent. And so it's not so much that I'm like, oh my God, I really like him and I want him to like me. It's not really that. It's more just like my nervous system is fucked, not knowing what's going to happen next. That's what it is. I have been disappointed at least one time pretty majorly in that 2 months. But like there was one who was a cut above the rest and who I got more attached to than any of the others and who I probably shouldn't have gotten quite that attached to, but who encouraged me to get attached to him. Let's just put it that way. And even after that ended, quote unquote, I mean, it's weird to say something ended when it never really started properly, but I slept like a baby that night, even though I was really sad because I had certainty again. It wasn't the certainty I wanted, but I had it. So that's like a pro tip for some of y'all single people out there who are maybe mistaking that anxiety for attachment to the person. Like you might be feeling it and not actually realize what it is. It might really just be, I'm not comfortable with not knowing what's going to happen next. And so that kind of leads me into another thing I really had to work through, which was like not trying to interfere in the process from a place of anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm, as you're talking about this, I'm thinking of how this relates to any kind of uncertainty. Because there might be some people who have had certainty. Maybe they've been married for 10 years, or maybe they, whatever, they're like in an established relationship, but they feel that way when they find like a dream job and then they submit an application and they're like waiting to hear. And it feels like my whole career could change on a dime if this works. Or I could be completely disappointed and have to go right back to my,
what if I don't get into
my
grad
job
school?
that I hate?
Like, am I going to have a baby or not? Like, am I pregnant or not? Like, there's a lot of things like that that can really put you into a tailspin.
So I want to just broaden that out because that experience feels universal, even though the context here is very specifically to relationships. But I think we can have that codependency on anything that feels uncertain, but also feels huge,
and that you want
like
really badly,
and that feels like it would change your life in a dramatic way, and you don't know what's going to happen.
It is a bit of a mind fuck.
It is
to like be like, I don't know if I will know this person tomorrow or if I will marry this person in a year and a half, right? Like, and either feel like they're possible at the beginning, and it to me that's just very jarring.
Yeah, I have either someone will forget their name in a couple of days, or I will like
have children with this person.
Yeah. And I'll be like with them on their deathbed. Like, what? Right. That is extreme.
And of course, like,
and your brain shouldn't go there, but how do you stop it?
It's hard not to. It's so hard not to go there. Especially when I just think it's normal to go there. So okay. So, however, I have worked through a lot of that anxiety, and here's what's helping me. Okay. I had to go through enough of them. I had to get through, and like, some were better than others. Some I went on like multiple dates with, had many conversations with, like got to know kind of as well as you can know someone. And some, again, were like a flash in the pan. That all helped me work through something in a different way, I think. And here's what I found myself doing earlier on in this process, which is funny. Literally, we're talking about 2.5 months, but earlier on in those 2.5 months was very different than later on in those 2.5 months. Earlier on, what I was doing was I was allowing my anxiety to let me interfere with how the process was unfolding. So,
do you want to give an example?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to give an example. So, okay, just a little bit of a sidebar here. If you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you hear Kristen and I talk about masculine and feminine energy a lot. And you know that we're not talking about gender. We're talking about your natural preference for how you like to take action or not. It has a lot to do with like
pursuing energy or more
receiving energy. So naturally I am a more feminine energy person, and I like healthy masculine energy. I also talk about this in Forever Alone. So you could also just refresh yourself there if you want to. But I don't, I don't want to pursue anybody. I don't want to like initiate. I'm not saying it's 100% or 0%. It's not an all or nothing, but the vast majority of the time, I prefer for someone to initiate things with me and to pursue me. Because, and this has something to do with the anxiety, if you don't let someone do that, you don't know if they're going to be able, if they're really A, that interested in you, or be able to meet your needs. So I really want that, but I've also really struggled to just let it happen. So
because then you have to sit in the not knowing,
which again is literally nauseating and like cold sweat inducing for someone like me. So for example, with one of these guys, and this happened with multiple of them, so really just, copy paste for a few of these, but I'm thinking of one in particular where he asked me out. He was like, and I was like, yeah, okay. And I told him, I like people who make plans. So if you want to go out with me, like the best way to make that happen is like suggest a plan. And he was like, okay, I'll think of something. And this was like, it was like a Thursday night or something like that. Right. Maybe a Wednesday night. And like the weekend is coming up. So I wasn't interfering that hard, but I could have interfered less, because what I'll do is I'll find like a roundabout way the next day. When it's not coming up the next day, I'm getting pissed. I'm like, why is there no plan? Like, why is this not happened? Like, why have you not emailed me a spreadsheet of options the next day? Right. And so what I'll do is I'll find like a roundabout way to like bring up like, oh yeah, like when we meet up or whatever, or like it, and like, maybe that's fine, but it's also 100% manipulating. It's 100%. Hey, don't fucking forget that you're supposed to make a plan, bitch.
And that's the real intention.
That's where it's coming from, right? It's not coming from a casual, breezy place. It's coming from a controlling place. And of course it works. That's the problem, is when I do that, it works. Okay. But what ends up happening is you end up extending the length of time that it takes to get your answer. Because if you hadn't interfered in the process, if you had just literally said, great, yeah, let me know what you think you want to do. What's your plan? What your plan is. I like people who make plans. I think it's fine that I said, I like people who make plans. Sure. But I think the plan probably would have ended up coalescing with this person that I'm thinking of. But in general, I think what will happen if you start to interfere is that you're making it too easy for them. Like, you're like kind of mothering them when you shouldn't, or like kind of be showing up as like a teacher when you shouldn't be. When like, if you hadn't interfered, would they have made a plan? And then would you have learned, oh, okay, well, if I hadn't prompted them, they wouldn't have made a plan. And then I wouldn't have had to go out with them 2 times to learn that they're not actually a match for me. I could have learned that when they didn't make a plan with me and they ghosted me, right? Like, so what I've had to learn the hard way a couple times. I had to do this a couple times before I finally got to the point where I was unwilling to do it anymore. And I've most recently practiced it on someone. Only a few weeks ago did I practice this on a new person. 10 out of 10. I didn't lift a freaking finger. And I had very little anxiety, actually, the whole time. That might have been because I wasn't as into him as I technically should have been. But I also think it was partially because I just had worked through this. Okay.
So but was your nervous system burnt out at that point? Because that was
my nervous system can always freak out about uncertainty. Do not rest. It does not rest. But my mantra kind of became, it's more important for me to get what I want, which is someone who is really steady, really consistent, really good communicator, clearly really into me, like doesn't leave me in doubt
showing up
of their interest, right? Then it is for me to alleviate my short-term discomfort with uncertainty, because I can't know if someone is that person if I interfere.
You don't give them a chance to show you that they're that person.
If I micromanage them from the beginning, I can't know if they really are good at follow through, if they are really consistent and steady and have a lot of like healthy masculine initiative and pursual kind of energy. And
frankly, if you do, you might push away somebody who has that energy in the first place, who's like, stop micromanaging me. I got this.
And honestly, that might have happened a time or two in the last 2.5 months with some of these dudes.
Because it's like a subtle form of masculine energy. By micromanaging, even though you're not being as direct about it, that's what it's coming.
Like passive aggressive masculine energy,
and
almost.
that's going to attract a more feminine counterpart.
Yeah.
So it not only doesn't work, and it not only gives you anxiety, but it's not even a useful strategy. So okay. So I'm also thinking like this is so relating.
And it's not the kind of relationship I want to be in. Let's just like, I think that you should show up in dating the way that you want a relationship to go down. So if you want to be in a relationship where someone does a lot of initiating and is really good at making things happen and is very communicative and is very steady and like trustworthy, then like, damn, don't interfere with their ability to prove that to you. Like, don't micromanage them. If you don't want to be micromanaging someone when you're in a relationship with them, don't let anxiety micromanage them now, before you even know if you want to be in a relationship with them. How else are you going to find out if you want to be in a relationship with this person?
I'm thinking of a client of mine right now who is kind of going through this in the interview process, which I know sounds weird, but like, she's like,
no,
I keep wanting to follow up. I haven't heard from them about a next interviewer. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you can follow up, but then you're not going to know if they were going to communicate with you, which is probably telling about how the company works. So if they're not very communicative, if they're not really on the ball, and you have to keep the interview process going in order to get the job offer, do you think it's going to magically change once you're in there? Do you think that's maybe a sign that the organization is not as put together as you would want? So I think we need to recognize like micromanaging
the process,
other people, period.
Or whether trying to micromanage the universe.
Right? Yes, absolutely. But we often do it by trying to micromanage the people around us to manipulate circumstances. It never works in any arena.
It doesn't net us what we want.
And even if it does work, you think, well, it only worked because I micromanaged.
Now I have to keep doing it.
It's exhausting.
Exactly. That doesn't alleviate my anxiety at all.
No.
And so in contrast to some of those earlier on anxiety inducing experiences I had, like the most recent example, I matched with this guy on a Friday night on Bumble, right? So I had to message him first. I didn't message him till Saturday morning. I'm like, screw that. I'm not getting into a conversation right before bed. So I messaged, no, I'm thinking of someone else. Sorry, they get confused. I did match with him on a Friday, but it was the afternoon. So I did initiate a message on Friday. And then on Friday night, we have to give context for this. Okay. This was the day I matched with 2 guys on a Friday afternoon. And this was so funny because I hadn't matched with anyone in like 3 weeks. Like it had been a dead zone. And that was fine. I actually wanted it like that. It was like those initial kind of almost 2 months, 6 weeks to 8 weeks had gone by. And I was like, you know what? I've just run a gauntlet. I feel like it's taught me a lot. I don't know that I'm open and available to this level of like emotional CrossFit anymore. I think it's served its purpose. I'm only open and available to dating if it's really, 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 really going to help me and it's going to really move the needle. If not, I don't want to keep doing it the way I've been doing it. This is exhausting. Like went through a boot camp. Great. Boot camp. I declared it was done. So I didn't have, and the universe literally heard me, nothing for 3 weeks. I mean, not nary a whistle of anything like
until,
of course, because this is me. I matched with 2 guys on the same day within hours of each other. And one of these guys asked, hey, do you want to have a video chat tomorrow morning? And I was like, okay. So that's guy, we'll call him guy A. Okay. Guy B, before my video chat the next morning, guy B asked if I want to get coffee that day. So I say, okay, me. Okay. So I have a video chat at 10 a.m. with guy A, and I have a coffee date at 3 p.m. with guy B. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which is already insane.
For me, already insane. We're already at insanity levels for what you could have predicted I would do. Okay. Have have a video chat with Guy A. Goes really well. Guy A asks, hey, do you want to get dinner tonight? I say, okay. So now I have 3 dates, 2 guys, 1 day.
I literally
and I did it.
said,
I did
don't
it.
recognize you.
I know.
Who
I did
are
it.
you?
I did it. I pulled it off. My mom was like, who body snatched you?
I told my mom and she was like, I don't understand. What is happening?
Literally no one who's ever met me understands. But I was just like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I'm just going to play. You know, like, and it was I was exhausted, right? But so informative, right? Had a great experience with Guy A on the video chat. Had a coffee date with Guy B. Guy B, sweetheart, really chatty, nice guy. But I left being like, nah, not my dude. Like, don't need a second date, right? Cool. Dinner with Guy B or Guy A. Sorry. Totally, again, like vibing with him, really liked him, was like, ooh, let's keep hanging out. Did I say let's keep hanging out? No. By the end of the date, he was like, we should keep this going. What do you want to do next? I was like, let's go take a walk and like hang out near this lake or whatever. So that's what we did. By the end of that date, he was like, part 2 of that date, he was like, well, I definitely want to see you again. And I was like, okay, when? I felt like I was allowed to ask that, right? Sure. And he was like, well, and he thought about it. He's like, is tomorrow too soon? And I was like, no. What do you want to do? And I was like, you know what? Let me give you an idea. Because I really, really, really want to see Top Gun. And no one has been able to see it with me. He was like, let's see Top Gun. So I saw Top Gun and then we went to dinner and then we hung out after dinner. And then on Monday, I never initiated a single text with this dude. Okay. I never initiated a date. I never initiated a single thing. I just hands off that motherfucking wheel. Okay. Mm-hmm. He texted me the next morning. But again, by Monday night, I was like, he has not asked me to do a third thing yet. And I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm not going to initiate. And then I'll do this thing sometimes where like, if a guy doesn't text me something, like if he just says like, haha, as the last response or like 1-word response, like agreed, I'm not responding to that. Mm-hmm. Some people will try to keep the conversation going because they have this anxiety that like, well, what if I never hear from him again?
It's like, also micromanaging. Yep.
Right. I'm not going to micromanage by like indulging your boring ass conversation. Like say something more interesting if you want to talk to me. If you want to keep talking to me, be interesting. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel. So like 5 minutes later, he did that. He said something kind of like dull that I didn't need to respond to. And I was like, okay. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, so when are we hanging out again? So we made a plan for actually the next night, Tuesday night. So Tuesday morning, it's so funny. I was having the same thought and he was clearly having the same thought. Like, good guy. We vibed on a lot of levels. I shared something with him that he really liked that I'm going to share with all of you too. This is my big, in a minute, I'm going to share with you my big takeaway. Stay till the end for a real treat. But based on our earlier conversations, I think we were both having some qualms about our deeper compatibility. Like a lot in common, but maybe there was going to be some dissonance, I think. He was picking up on it. So was I. He texted me and he's like, hey, I just got to be honest. I'm having some qualms about this and just wanted to be really transparent with you, like before we meet up tonight or something. And I was like, that's funny. I've been having the same thought. And so we basically mutually parted ways before we even got to the third date. So just to give you, again, Friday afternoon to Tuesday afternoon, right? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4 days from meeting someone to hanging out with him for hours on end, multiple, right? Like many hours, complete clarity, like only 4 days. It didn't take that long. Some of people are dragging this out for weeks by not being, by A, interfering, and B, we're going to get into this in a second, not being transparent about what you're looking for up front, not just getting those deal breakers right out in the open. So should we talk about that?
Yes, we should talk about that. One question that I have for you though, because, and I'm not asking for you to give me the full rundown of this because I think you've done some of it in Forever Alone, but I do think that there is something to reflect on, that you went from being completely like
terrified of even looking at a dating app.
Yes.
Literally even looking at it.
Having 3 dates in one day.
With 2 guys.
So what even made that possible?
I don't know.
Because
a lot of exposure therapy. Because I couldn't have started there. Right? Like, I think back to our episode. That's the point I wanted to make, because I think there are some people who feel like something's really, really far away. Yeah. And
to hear you say that, it feels like, oh, wow, like that was like an abrupt change. It wasn't an abrupt change.
No, it was very gradual. Well, it was intense. I actually wasn't that gradual. Like I really kind of up-leveled pretty quick. It could have been more gradual, but it was me. So it was intense. And I skipped a lot of levels at a time. But go back to our episode from June of this year, where we talk our side chat about how to get out of your comfort zone, like successfully get out of your comfort zone. Because I think that's ultimately what I did, was I worked my way out of it by like, okay, well, I'm going to download this app, but I'm only going to spend like 5 minutes a day on Hinge. Right. And I worked my way up to like sending a message that I don't want to have to send a dude a message, but like, fine, I'll like someone. Like literally it had to be like that small at first. Or I guess I'll talk to this person that I'm not sure of, which really scared me. And again, I get into Forever Alone why that scared me and how I worked through it. But it was like, there was stair steps the whole time. And then I took the stair step of like, let me go out with someone I'm actually really intrigued by.
But the first stairs were small. And that's what I think is important.
Yeah.
Like maybe you skip steps, but that was kind of later on. Like once you already had some momentum built.
Yeah.
And some of your fears had dissolved a bit.
Yeah. I basically like caught up on all of the dating that I wasn't doing for like 9 years, which part of that was just, I was intentionally not dating. Some of it was from a place of fear. Some of it was just kind of intentional. But I basically spent like the last year and mostly the last 2.5 months just catching up on all the dating I should have done in the last like decade. LOL.
Okay. So now I do want to get into your like biggest learning. And this is funny to me because again, you're one of the most discerning people that I know, period.
But
I feel like you figured out even a more nuanced way to be discerning.
Guys, if you're single, take notes. Like genuinely get out a pen or put this in a notes app on your phone, because I'm not writing this down for you. I'm not emailing this to you. I don't have a course for you about this. You might be like, Rachel, this is obvious. I don't care. My clients that I've shared this with are like, thank you. This is so helpful.
I have not heard this before. This is not obvious.
Okay. This is Rachel's patent pending, trademark pending. 5 C's, as in the letter C, of compatibility. Compatibility being the 6th C.
A lot of C's.
Okay, because we need to get clear on like, how do you know if someone's actually right for you? Okay. The better you know yourself, the easier this is going to be. Just so you know, obviously. Mm-hmm. Okay. In no particular order. Okay. Let's start with my least favorite. Common interests. I don't give a flying fuck about common interests. Okay. For the most part. Liz, I know every dumbass on Bumble is like, I really like travel. Okay, guys, I don't care how much you like travel. Liking travel is not a personality trait.
I like dogs.
Literally, Scarlett just barked as we said that.
I'm a dog.
She's like, yeah, yeah, that's right. Dogs.
Being my height lady.
Okay, I'm not editing that out. If she barks again, I'll edit it out. Okay, common interests. So everyone puts so much emphasis on common interests. Like you don't have to have that many things that you like in common. You have to have some, okay? If someone is really, really into skiing and they want to spend their whole winter going to different ski resorts and you don't like skiing, that might be an incompatibility, right? But if someone really likes going to breweries and you're like not that into it, I'm sorry. Does that really matter that much? Like, I get so mad when I read Bumble bios and it's like Dave, and Dave is like, I like dogs and travel and breweries. I'm like, Dave, do you realize every other basic ass man on this app says the same thing? And I also can't build a life on the fact that we like dogs, like,
yeah, your friends will have common interests with you. Your spouse doesn't need to like all the same things that you like. But if you have literally no common interests, then then you're like not wanting to do stuff together.
Exactly. So enough that you want to like have conversations about similar things or do some things together, but you absolutely don't have to have all like common interests don't matter as much as some of these other things I'm about to say. Okay. It matters the least of everything. That matters the least. Okay. Character traits, which is another way of saying personality, but I'm trying to do the C's here. Okay. So you don't have to have the same personality as someone, but obviously you have to have a complementary personality. So I can't be with someone who's like super extroverted because they're going to want me to be out and about all the time. And I'm going to be homebodying a lot of the time. And they're not going to like that. And I'm not going to like that about them. So I would prefer someone tending toward introversion, even if they were an extrovert, as long as they were not like super on the high end of the extrovert spectrum. Okay. So your character traits, that's just your personality, right? Like your sense of humor would go under personality traits. I don't need to tell you what a personality is. You guys get it. Okay.
Take the Myers-Briggs.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Always love it when dudes sometimes put their Myers-Briggs in their profile. I'm like, that's nice. And then there's ones who will just make up letters and be like, haha, actually, I don't know what that is. And I could give a fuck less. And I'm like,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So wipe left on you. This is a very F-bomb heavy episode. What were you expecting? Okay. So common interests, character traits, core values. We're getting more important now. Okay. This is your feelings about deeper stuff. Like, okay, family and money and health. Sure. Right. So I can't be with someone who's not growth minded. Okay. Like this is a core value of mine. I'm a coach. I have a podcast. I have multiple podcasts. If you are a closed-minded SOB who thinks he's right about everything, we're not going to get along. Like you have to be growth minded and have done quite a lot of work on yourself. Like that's a huge value of mine. And yeah, health, right? Like I can't be with someone who wants to like drink like fish and eat nachos every day. Yeah. Like, no thanks. Can't do that. I think you guys understand what core values are, right? Okay. All right. Chemistry. That's physical. That's just, do I want to bang this person? I mean, let's just be real. We need that. That's the only person really that you need to want to have sex with.
It's physical attraction, but it's also the like intangible chemistry that you just feel when you're in someone's presence. Yeah. Which is why sometimes in order to know that, you do have to be in someone's presence. Good
point. Because I've had both experiences where like, actually, you know what? Not really. I think I've had, no, you know what? Nope, I have. Nope. Taking that back. I've had both where like you have more rhythm like over the phone or on FaceTime and then you meet them in person and you're like, oh, it's like a wet blanket. Like, I'm like, I don't have any mojo with this person.
Or even their pictures are really attractive, but then you see them and their energy is not, and it makes them less attractive.
Yes. Yeah. And vice versa. Where like, you're like, I don't know, they're cute, but are they that cute? And then you meet them. And then for whatever reason, your pheromones and their pheromones are like a match. And you're like, damn, I've had that experience too.
Yeah. So chemistry is subtle sometimes, but it's there or it's not there.
And it does sometimes require you meeting. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to meet someone who's already a hard no from you. Like if they're a no because they're boring, you don't have to meet them. If you're not sure if it's a yes, you might need to meet them in order to clarify, like to get the full picture.
Or if some of the other things, like if your core values are contrasting, maybe you don't want to meet up because maybe you do have chemistry and then maybe you ignore the core values.
Damn. Yeah, that can happen too, right? Okay. And then the fifth one is chronology. Okay. Being time, your timeline. This is one that doesn't get talked about. And we need to talk about it, people, especially the older you get, the more this matters. When you're 22, guess what we care about? Chemistry.
Almost exclusively.
And sometimes common interests. Yeah. We like, I guess character traits come up too, right? Like personality needs to match, but like we mostly care about chemistry. And core values don't really matter that much because when you're 22, you're not really usually thinking about like,
know what yours are.
Yeah. And you're not like, you have so much time before life gets like serious, quote unquote, that like, you're allowed to just date for chemistry for the most part. When you're in your early to mid 30s or beyond, that's not what matters first and foremost anymore. Right. I mean, it matters. All of these things matter. But here's what I've learned. And I did kind of have to learn this one the hard way, that just because you have, all of those things I've just talked about with someone. And I did. I'm thinking about one person in particular. I had all of that with. And I thought we were on the same timeline because like I just hadn't gotten, I guess I hadn't asked specifically enough. But you know what? I'm actually not going to blame myself because he did act like he was on the same timeline. But I don't think he maybe knew he wasn't until we had dated a little bit, right? And then I think maybe I helped him realize he wasn't on that timeline. Yeah. Well, that happens. But anyway, timeline means, do we want the same things at the same time? Because if I meet someone and I have all of these things, I have common interests, I have core values, character traits align, chemistry, but he says, yeah, I'm looking to like get married and have kids, but not for like 5 years. I'd be like, I'm out.
Right.
Like our chronology does not line up.
Multiple things that I want to do before I hit certain milestones. And you're like, that's not going to.
But I'm already at that place. I'm not waiting around for someone for 5 years to figure it out. Now, for some of you, that might not be a deal breaker, and that's fine. For me, that's a deal breaker. I literally don't care if everything else is perfect. That for me is a deal breaker. And some people are going to be triggered by that.
I still think you need to consider chronology though, because even if it's not a deal breaker so much, if you have very different timelines from someone and then you're trying to live life in parallel, in partnership with that person,
it's a conflict.
Somebody's going to feel resentful.
Yes.
Somebody's going to have to give.
Yeah. So I'm not capable of being in a relationship with someone, even if they're perfect, if they're not on my timeline, because I would resent the shit out of them in no time. Like, and so I can't do it. That just means we're actually not compatible. People don't give that enough credit. I think they think if we have all those other things, that means we're compatible. And I'm like, no, not being on the same timeline with someone is equivalent to not having no chemistry with them. It's equivalent to not having enough core values in common. I really believe that.
Yeah.
So you need all 5 of the C's.
This is not just about marriage and kids. I think that's the thing people most
No, that's my timeline.
But I had a client a while back who was really interested in the retire early movement. And that would have been really important if she had...
Which is also a core value.
If she was married to someone who was just on the like, oh, I'm just going to work until I'm 65. And she's like, no, I want to retire by the time I'm 50. We're going to be really, really... We have different approaches to how we work on our money and what we do with our lives in the next few... I mean, all of that is totally different chronology. You need...
And core values and like it bleeds into everything, which is why I think of the C's as like Olympic rings. Like the Olympics logo. It's a big weird Venn diagram. They all overlap and they have their own areas, but they overlap with each other too.
Yeah.
And they all add up to compatibility. So if you're not clear about what your interests are, about who you are as a person, about what you value, about what you find attractive,
your own timeline
and your timeline, guess what? You can have a hard time knowing if you're compatible with someone. And, or it's going to come down to more surface level stuff. It'll come down to, oh, well, we're attracted to each other. So I guess we're compatible, right? Like,
or we have the same interests.
Or we have similar interests, I guess. So we must be compatible. The more you know yourself, the clearer it's going to be for you to discern whether you have all of that. And I have gotten very good at saying a lot of this up front. I do not waste time. And I'm not interviewing men necessarily. I'm just finding ways to bring it up in conversation. I'll just be like, hey, like having a good time chatting with you so far. Can I just be direct and ask, what are you looking for in a relationship? Like, boom. We're like, I need to know, what are you looking for? Their answers are so telling. And then it gives me an opportunity to say, here's exactly what I'm looking for and the timeline on which I am looking for it. Not with you. I don't know. But like, obviously I don't know, but I need to tell you that so that you can opt out or I can opt out.
Timeline does not work for you.
If any of those answers don't work for me. So a lot of it will come up naturally in conversation, right? Like you'll talk about, oh yeah, I juice in the morning. Oh my God, so do I. Oh, let's talk about health, right? Like it comes up, but there are some that don't always. And so you need to kind of, I think it's great to like literally have a checklist if you want, like have the 5 C's and be like, as you gain evidence or not, be like, what's missing? Like, what don't I know enough about? Oh, I don't know enough about the core values. All right. Let me bring that up in conversation.
I'm thinking about this right now and I think it works. I think the 5 C's might also work when you are applying for jobs.
Probably.
Because you're trying to suss out all those same things about a company.
Chemistry.
There is kind of chemistry.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's a vibe.
And
do I like their vibe?
Do we have the same core values?
Yeah.
Are you looking for someone in the time frame that I want to find a new job? I mean, all of these things are like, let's get to the core of what are you looking for? What am I looking for? Are we on the same page? Are we the same vibe? Are we going to enjoy our experience working together? I think it works.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you actually think about that before you apply for a job. What are the things I want to ask to get to the heart of some of these things? So like compatibility is compatibility at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Whether it's whoever it's with, it all matters. So don't think this doesn't apply to you if you are not currently single.
And I think back to humility, one of the things I've had to learn is that I always thought dating was stupid because I knew what I wanted. And I thought dating was for people who didn't know what they wanted. Like, how else are they going to learn, right? They got to like suss this stuff out by doing. You can't think your way into some of this sometimes. But I've always known what I wanted. Like, I don't need a lot of help with the 5 C's. Like, I intuitively already understood and knew what I'm looking for. However, knowing what you want is not the same thing as believing you are capable of receiving it. So I think a lot of the anxiety I've worked through and a lot of the beliefs I've worked through in dating have been about believing that the kind of person I want exists and that I can receive what I'm looking for from men.
How do you feel about that now?
Much, 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 much better. Because I have seen examples of guys who like are open-minded and are easy to talk to and who are consistent and good communicators and spiritual and like growth-minded. And I've met that in people.
I think that's an important point because I do think sometimes people, when they're afraid that maybe they can't get what they want or maybe it doesn't exist, they're afraid to even seek it out or afraid to open themselves up because then they might get proof that it doesn't. But what you're saying is you got proof that every single one of those things can exist and you can have that experience.
And in one person, I mean, well, that's not true. Not quite.
But you know what I'm saying?
But like in different people. It
actually made you feel more hopeful instead of less. And I think that's the fear of trying things out or being open for some people is that they're afraid the disappointment will make them feel less hopeful. But you're saying it did the opposite. And that's pretty huge.
Yeah. So sometimes it's not about learning what you want. It's about readying yourself for receiving it, believing you're capable of receiving it. So that's where I'm at now. Much, 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 much more like, okay, yeah, I mean, I can find all of this in one person. I understand why I haven't, because it is a rare combination that I'm looking for. Like, I have high standards. We know that. That's fine. I talk about that at the very end of Forever Alone. I'm not going to change that. It is who I am to my core. And that's fine. Matters to me that much. But yeah, no, I've much more open to the, like, I believe that's going to happen. I just don't know when, which is annoying. Like, I'm annoyed by that. Let's be clear.
Sure.
Just like, I put in so much work. Are you kidding me? Yeah, that's what I've learned. I've also learned that like you would just think that like the older I am, so like the older I'm capable of dating now, like the last time I was like really like I didn't date for most of my 20s at all, right? Like the early 20s, but then not for like a good portion of my 20s. So you would think like the older people get, the better they get at things. And that's not necessarily the case. Like, I don't think it's that hard to be a good kisser. I really don't. Like, I like, it's not that complicated.
It's not that complicated.
And you know what? Some people in their damn 40s, it's not that easy.
Still figuring it out.
Still figuring that out, which is a great reason why, like, sometimes you gotta meet up. Also, though, like, pro tip for straight men, like the one who's listening to this right now, like, I don't always think it's necessary to attempt to kiss someone on a first date. Like, I really think you got to read the room. And a lot of these men are just ambush kissing. They just are. And I'm just like, I wasn't necessarily prepared or desirous of that. Like, read the room.
I don't know if we're affecting the population at large here, but spread the word, single straight men.
Like, watch Hitch and just do that.
There you go. Yeah.
Right? Like the 90-10 thing. Like maybe that.
So many things you can take from Hitch. But
love Hitch. But like, I just feel like it's just not a given. And also, no, I shouldn't go there. Well, if you're going to ambush kiss someone, like, don't do it with tongue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's a lot.
I'm just like, there are steps we have to work up to here. That's not anyway.
So lessons big and small learned throughout.
My favorite dude out of all of them did that exactly the right way, by the way, which is part of the reason why he was probably my favorite. It's because
probably why there was, more indications of chemistry.
Yeah. Yeah. He was, he knew exactly like how to handle that. And it wasn't because he was like a player. I think he just like was respectful and was like good at reading energy.
Mm-hmm. It's important.
And like, yeah. But anyway, I learned that too. Just wanted to let you know. Well, more like relearned that. Yeah. But like got confirmation. Yeah, no. Wow. A lot of people just are like not really knowing what they're doing on that level, which is helpful. Cause I'm like, if you don't know what you're doing, this is simple. If you don't know what you're doing here, I have questions about how much better this is going to go from here. Know what I mean?
And maybe also sign, like you said, that not good at picking up on energy, not good at reading people.
That, and maybe you just don't actually have good chemistry if it's not gelling in that sense, right? You know? Okay.
Well, I think this was a good combination of an update, but also with some helpful tidbits. Sprinkle it all throughout. So like now you're up to date on where Rachel's at post Forever Alone. Mostly. I mean, there's
well, you got the high
flavor and detail and nuance that you will get.
You got high level overview. You didn't get,
but I hope you also got some little ideas or nuggets to incorporate.
Listen, the 5 C's is not a little idea.
I don't think it is.
It is a monumental breakthrough in the art of coaching and dating. I mean, I think it could be. Take it and tell me how you feel about that. That in particular is what I would like your comments on.
But feedback on any of it.
Well, sure. But I really do want to hear your 5 C's. Like,
yeah, this is the first time we've really announced it beyond just
announced it
to friends.
Announcement. I have an idea. That's what this podcast basically is.
Announcement.
Here's an alert of an idea we've had.
Alert.
Oh, God. Okay. Man. That's it.
Okay.
I'll be back at some point. I promise I will be back with season 2 and Forever Alone. And let me just speak for one moment to why, even though Kristen's like, wow, but you have so much content. No, I don't. Because the whole point of season 2 of Forever Alone in my mind is the arc from like, okay, working through all right, I know what I want, but I didn't realize maybe I had so much anxiety around receiving it. And I had to date some dudes in order to kind of like confirm that I was capable of receiving it and work through that anxiety. But to me, that's not a whole arc. I can't write a whole season about that. There's not enough to dig into. What I need, keep telling the universe this. I mean, they need to cast someone so that I can write about actually then going from the dating to getting into a relationship, because that's going to bring up so much more anxiety and so much more stuff to work through in a good way. I need to write about that. So I just really need a boyfriend. I mean, that's what I need. So just, if any of y'all, know anyone, hit me up who would be a good fit on my 5 C's.
You feel like you're a good matchmaker.
Me.
First listen to Forever Alone and then.
There you go. Don't even bother if you have to listen to Forever Alone. You get through that and you're like, I know someone great. But, that's why. It's because it doesn't make sense.
So still to come.
Apparently. Okay.
Well, let us know what you thought. And then again, final reminder that today's your last day to join us for Getting Over People Pleasing.
Which some of y'all need to do if you want to be in a relationship, by the way. Because if you don't know who you are or what you want, or you keep people pleasing. And some of you
know this because if you have been a people pleaser in relationships before, you are probably very familiar with the imbalance and how that does not tend to go well and makes you just feel resentful. So yeah, we need to work on that for a lot of reasons, but relationships being one of them for sure.
Yep. You can't be satisfied in anything if you're not capable of knowing who you are and what you want and how to advocate for it. So that's the point.
That has been a big part of my experience. So I can speak to that with confidence.
Okay. So that's that. Link in bio. This is an Instagram. Link in show notes. Or go to clarityonfire.com, work with us tab. And we'll be back. Oh yeah. We start the course on Monday and we'll be back next Friday with a new side chat.
Okay. We'll see you then.
Okay. Bye.